Day 637, Saturday, May 10th. 2 Kings 25:8-21. 2 Chronicles 36:17-21. Jeremiah 39:8-10. And Jeremiah 52:12-30. 2 Kings 25:8-21. And in the 5th month, on the 7th day of the month, which was the 19th year of King Nebuchadnezzar king of Babylon, Nebuzaradan the captain of the guard, a servant of the king of Babylon, came to Jerusalem. He burned the house of the Lord and the king's house, all the houses of Jerusalem, that is, all the houses of the great, he burned with fire. And all the army of the Chaldeans who were with the captain of the guard broke down the walls of Jerusalem all around. Then Nebuzaradan, the captain of the guard, carried away captive the rest of the people who remained in the city and the defectors who had deserted to the king of Babylon, with the rest of the multitude. But the captain of the guard left some of the poor of the land as vine dressers and farmers. The bronze pillars that were in the house of the Lord, and the carts and the bronze sea that were in the house of the Lord, the Chaldeans broke in pieces, and carried their bronze to Babylon. They also took away the pots, the shovels, the trimmers, the spoons, and all the bronze utensils with which the priests ministered, the firepans and the basins, the things of solid gold and solid silver, the captain of the guard took away. The 2 pillars, 1 sea, and the carts, which Solomon had made for the house of the Lord, the bronze of all these articles was beyond measure. The height of 1 pillar was 18 cubits, and the capital on it was of bronze. The height of the capital was 3 cubits, and the network and pomegranates all around the capital were all of bronze. The 2nd pillar was the same, with a network. And the captain of the guard took Seraiah the chief priest, Zephaniah the 2nd priest, and the 3 doorkeepers. He also took out of the city an officer who had charge of the men of war, 5 men of the king's close associates who were found in the city, the chief recruiting officer of the army, who mustered the people of the land, and 60 men of the people of the land, who were found in the city. So Nebuzaradan, captain of the guard, took these and brought them to the king of Babylon at Riblah. Then the king of Babylon struck them, and put them to death at Riblah in the land of Hamath. Thus Judah was carried away captive from its own land. 2 Chronicles 36:17-21, NKJV. Therefore he brought against them the king of the Chaldeans, who killed their young men with the sword in the house of their sanctuary, and had no compassion on young man or virgin, on the aged or the weak. He gave them all into his hand. And all the articles from the house of God, great and small, the treasures of the house of the Lord, and the treasures of the king and of his leaders, all these he took to Babylon. Then they burned the house of God, broke down the wall of Jerusalem, burned all its palaces with fire, and destroyed all its precious possessions. And those who escaped from the sword he carried away to Babylon, where they became servants to him and his sons until the rule of the kingdom of Persia, to fulfill the word of the Lord by the mouth of Jeremiah, until the land had enjoyed her Sabbaths. As long as she lay desolate she kept Sabbath, to fulfill 70 years. Jeremiah 39:8-10, NKJV. And the Chaldeans burned the king's house and the houses of the people with fire, and broke down the walls of Jerusalem. Then Nebuzaradan, the captain of the guard, carried away captive to Babylon the remnant of the people who remained in the city and those who defected to him, with the rest of the people who remained. But Nebuzaradan, the captain of the guard, left in the land of Judah the poor people, who had nothing, and gave them vineyards and fields at the same time. Jeremiah 52:12-30, NKJV. Now in the 5th month, on the 10th day of the month, which was the 19th year of King Nebuchadnezzar king of Babylon, Nebuzaradan, the captain of the guard, who served the king of Babylon, came to Jerusalem. He burned the house of the Lord and the king's house, all the houses of Jerusalem, that is, all the houses of the great, he burned with fire. And all the army of the Chaldeans who were with the captain of the guard broke down all the walls of Jerusalem all around. Then Nebuzaradan, the captain of the guard, carried away captive some of the poor people, the rest of the people who remained in the city, the defectors who had deserted to the king of Babylon, and the rest of the craftsmen. But Nebuzaradan, the captain of the guard, left some of the poor of the land as vine dressers and farmers. The bronze pillars that were in the house of the Lord, and the carts and the bronze sea that were in the house of the Lord, the Chaldeans broke in pieces and carried all their bronze to Babylon. They also took away the pots, the shovels, the trimmers, the bowls, the spoons, and all the bronze utensils with which the priests ministered, the basins, the fire pans, the bowls, the pots, the lampstands, the spoons, and the cups, whatever was solid gold and whatever was solid silver, the captain of the guard took away. The 2 pillars, 1c, the 12 bronze bulls which were under it, and the carts, which King Solomon had made for the house of the Lord, the bronze of all these articles was beyond measure. Now concerning the pillars, the height of one pillar was 18 cubits. A measuring line of 12 cubits could measure its circumference, and its thickness was 4 fingers. It was hollow. A capital of bronze was on it. And the height of one capital was 5 cubits, with a network and pomegranates all around the capital, all of bronze. The second pillar, with pomegranates, was the same. There were 96 pomegranates on the sides. All the pomegranates all around on the network were 100. The captain of the guard took Sariah the chief priest, Zephaniah the second priest, and the 3 doorkeepers. He also took out of the city an officer who had charge of the men of war, 7 men of the king's close associates who were found in the city, the principal scribe of the army who mustered the people of the land, and 60 men of the people of the land who were found in the midst of the city. And Nebuzaradan the captain of the guard took these and brought them to the king of Babylon at Riblah. Then the king of Babylon struck them and put them to death at Riblah in the land of Hamath. Thus Judah was carried away captive from its own land. These are the people whom Nebuchadnezzar carried away captive in the 7th year, 3,023 Jews. In the 18th year of Nebuchadnezzar he carried away captive from Jerusalem 830. 2 persons. In the 23rd year of Nebuchadnezzar, Nebuzaradan, the captain of the guard, carried away captive of the Jews 745 persons. All the persons were 4,600. Daily Deep Dive. The UCG reading plan states, about a month after the captivity of Zedekiah, in the Hebrew 5th month of AB or AV, corresponding to July-August, came the demolition of Solomon's temple, the palaces and buildings, the removal of all the valuable items to Babylon, and the destruction of the city's walls. This was no easy task, as is borne out by the use of the whole Babylonian army to tear down the walls. As is often the case in Bible translation, the English does not truly convey the sense of the original language. Mastering the Old Testament comments regarding 2 Kings 25 in Hebrew, the first 12 verses of the chapter are one long sentence, each verse beginning with "and." Clauses heaped upon clause in a kind of cadence, as if each one were another tick of the clock counting down Jerusalem's final hours. Vol. 9 2 Kings. By Russell Dilday, 1987, p. 505. A lot of detail is given concerning exactly what was taken from the temple. Many items had been taken in previous invasions. Now the temple was stripped bare before it was razed. Strikingly absent is any mention of the Ark of the Covenant, which has fueled suspicions that it was secreted away to some hiding place beforehand, though we cannot now know for sure. As mentioned in comments on a previous plundering of the temple, it is interesting to note that after the fall of Babylon to the Persians, the Jews who are permitted to return to Judah at that time are given temple items to go back with according to a detailed accounting Ezra 1:7-11, perhaps made possible by the fact that Daniel was a high official of Babylon who could well have had a hand in this. Concerning the temple, there appears to be a contradiction as to what day of the month Nebuzaradan, the Babylonian captain of the guard, arrived and destroyed it. In 2 Kings 25:8 the date given is the 7th, while Jeremiah 5:2-12 says it was the 10th. John Gill's exposition of the entire Bible says that the difficulty may be solved without supposing different copies or any error. Nebuzaradan might have set out from Riblah on the 7th day, and come to Jerusalem on the 10th, or he might come thither on the 7th, and not set fire to the city till the 10th, or if he set fire to it on the 7th, it might be burning to the 10th, before it was wholly consumed. The Jews account for it thus: strangers entered into the temple, and ate in it, and defiled it, the 7th and 8th days, and on the 9th, towards dark, they set fire to it, and it burned and continued all that whole day, as it is said. Jeremiah 6:4 feet. Note on Jeremiah 5:2-12. The Jewish oral tradition gives the 9th of AV as the date for the destruction of the temple by the Babylonians, as well as the date for the destruction of the Second Temple by the Romans. more than 600 years later. Tosefta Ta'anit 410 Ta'an 29a. The anniversary of the destruction of Solomon's temple was commemorated as the fast of the 5th month. Zechariah 8:19, still observed by the Jews on the 9th of Av, as the anniversary of the destruction of both temples. Indeed, a number of other great tragedies have befallen the Jewish people on this date over the centuries. Another possible solution to the apparent discrepancy is that the date given in Jeremiah 5:2-12, the 10th, actually applies to verse 15, regarding the deportation of the people, and that everything in between is a parenthetical inset explaining what had already happened up to this point. Not everyone, we learn, was deported at this time. The Babylonians knew the value of the land, and, rather than leaving it totally desolate, they allowed some of the poorer people to stay behind to care for the vineyards and fields. Certain important people were chosen for execution, such as the high priest Sariah, grandson of Hilkiah, the faithful high priest of Josiah's day. Although Sariah was executed at Riblah, 2 Kings 25:21, his son Jehozadak was simply deported, 1 Chronicles 6:15. Through Jehozadak's line would come Ezra, the priest and great reformer, who one day would return to Jerusalem and take up Sariah's work, Ezra 7:1, the second martyred priest. Zephaniah may be the priest mentioned by Jeremiah, Jeremiah 21, Jeremiah 2:9-25. Jerusalem would be less prone to future rebellions with the chief religious and civil officials gone. Nelson Study Bible. Note on 2 Kings 2:5-18. Of course, many were carried away at this time, though much less than had already been carried away more than a decade earlier. Bear in mind that the figures given in Jeremiah 5:2-28-30 concern only the city of Jerusalem. Many more people were taken from the rest of Judah. Observe also that, according to verse 30, a final deportation would occur a few years after the current one. The exile would continue until the land had enjoyed her Sabbaths, 2 Chronicles 3:6-21. According to the law of Moses, the land was to lie fallow every 7th year, Leviticus 25:4. This became known as the sabbatical year. Judah's exile in Babylon allowed the land to enjoy the Sabbaths it had missed, because the people had failed to obey God's law. See Leviticus 26:33-35. Note on 2 Chronicles 3:6-21. Being driven into captivity was a hard plight. As one source explains, it was indeed a subject for an artist to depict, the long march of the exiles on the way to their distant home. Delicate women and little children forced to travel day after day. Irrespective of fatigue and suffering, prophets and priests mingled together in the overthrow they had done so much to bring about, rich and poor marching side by side, manacled and urged forward by the spear point or scourge, all along the valley of the Jordan, past Damascus, and then for 30 days through the inhospitable wilderness, whilst all the nations round clapped their hands. F. B. Meyer, Jeremiah 1980. Mastering the Old Testament comments on 2 Kings 25, the reader cannot help but be struck by the passionless tones of the narrative in this chapter. Not once does the author show his feelings, even though he is describing the tragic downfall of his country, p. 505. Nor, the same source goes on to say, can the reader help but be impressed with the revelation throughout these chapters of God's patience and his reluctance to punish. More than 400 years had passed since Solomon first disobeyed God and introduced the children of Israel to pagan idolatry. Faithfully, through all those years, a steady stream of prophets clearly proclaimed the warnings of punishment. Varying disasters confirmed their messages, vividly previewing what was to come if the people did not repent and turn to God. With steadfast love, God tried again and again to seek and save his people, but they mocked his warnings, killed his prophets, and would not listen to his reproof. So finally the hour struck and the impending crash came. The harshness of the judgment is somehow softened by the recognition that the Lord is indeed long-suffering toward his people, but his patience and steadfast love are balanced with justice. The destruction is a reminder that we must not presume on his grace and mercy, pp. 505-506. This stands as a witness against those who would portray the God of the Old Testament as invariably harsh. It also serves as a warning that the God of love will extend his patience only so far. No one can dispute the fact that today's world blatantly disobeys and disregards God's laws. It can only be a matter of time before he says, "That's the end." Supplementary reading, The Bible and Archaeology, The Downfall of Judah, Exile to Babylon, The Good News. January, February 1999, pp. 22 to 24-28. End.